Okay, perfect. Do we have everybody there ready to start, or?
Yes, we're ready to start.
Oh, okay, cool. So, do you want to present the slides, or do you want me to?
If you could drive it, that would be great, and I will.
Sure. You can pass me the ball, then that would be good.
Coming your way.
Our balls are in your court.
All right.
Be careful where you step.
There you go. Everybody can see this, I presume, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So, welcome everybody to a review of the Hummingbird sprint number 2, which is actually the last sort of development sprint in this release. The next sprint or sprints, depending on how we decide to actually slice the remaining time for Hummingbird, will be dedicated mostly to just stabilization type activities, fixing defects and integrations of the remaining functionality. So it's actually a good sprint in terms of if we were to look at the Scrum board, how things look like. We have not seen this sort of a shape in a long time, so this clearly shows that we can actually do it. Now, granted, there were still some tasks that did not get done, but you know that was okay. That was expected. But it seems like we've definitely improved in terms of how we use the tracking tools and how we scope out the work to be done. So with that, let's switch over to talk about some of the specific areas of the sprint. And I'm going to ask David to talk about the community aspects first.
Great. You can hear me?
Yes.
So this is late for William, so I'll cover some details from his side. But to start off with, one of the main points from the last few weeks is the creation of a strawman plan for an upcoming ONOS developer event. If you haven't seen that, please take a look at either the ONOS blog or the ONOS dev list or the ONOS community team list. There's some information there, and we really want to get people's feedback. Now is the perfect time to give feedback because we have to finalize some things pretty quickly. In a week or 2 or 3 from now, you know, we might not be able to change or respond to feedback. So please, now is a perfect time to take a look and let us know your thoughts. You know, if we're going to get together with 200 or so people from the community, you know, for an event for 2.5 days, what do you want to do? What do you hope gets accomplished? Why do you want to get everybody together? That sort of input and feedback is really wanted right now, so please take a look and let us know. And then going forward, of course, as we do get into more of the details, we'll share more. This is going to be an open process throughout. So I think next week or the week after, we'll have a blog post about a more detailed agenda that people can respond to, and etc. But now's a great time to give feedback as a starting point. Some other things: we've launched the ambassador program officially and have a really good response. We've got people now from South America, North America, Australia, Europe, and Asia, all within about a 2-week period. So really, really good response, and excited about how that's going to go going forward. And then 2 other things. William is preparing for a community tour of Asia with kind of the key activity there being to represent, along with Brian, ON.Lab at the Huawei Connect. There's a number of different activities going on there. You can see on here a tutorial, mini summit, a workshop. And he's also, in addition to that, going to do some other activities in Asia, but that will be a lot on his plate coming up, and he's preparing for that now. And then lastly, some core community work around the summit and new collaborators and infrastructure stuff. That's it for the community.
Great. Thank you, David. On the core side, now this was work done mostly by Madan, at least in a time before he left on vacation. And so there were a number of fixes done to the core code, including fix to a port latency regression, where there was some new code introduced that was accidentally residing on the listener thread, which reduced the overall performance of the system. So that was very straightforward to find and fix. And there were also a number of edge cases with clustering, which were fixed, and so where we have potential data loss that could happen during adjusting the cluster size, as well as an issue where during network partition, the instances that were left in a minority were not ceding mastership for the devices that they owned previous to the partition. So now these issues have been fixed, and so that actually leaves the core in pretty good shape. I'm sure that there are additional issues that are on a Q8's plate, but we can hear about those later. There were also, on a related note, kind of more forward-looking, we started to get engaged in talks with Brian Freeman from AT&T about the topic of device configuration, specifically Yang-based device configuration, about introducing some features into ONOS that would help AT&T to be able to use ONOS in capacity of what they use Open Daylight today for. We also processed a large number of code reviews. Presently, the number of code reviews that we have pending in ONOS repo and ONOS Yang tools repo is, I think, somewhere around 2 pages, less than 50, which is actually lower than it's been for a while. We still have some cleanup to do, clearly, because there's a number of them that are a number of months old that probably need to be demoted to drafts or basically or abandoned, but that cleanup is definitely useful and helps us get prepared for the release. On the northbound side, now normally Brian would provide an update for this, but he's on vacation. So there were a number of fixes to the regressions in intent framework, specifically dealing with inability to purge intents in some cases, and also there was an issue where if intent operations, whether installations or withdrawals, would take a long time, the retry mechanism would start tripping over itself. And so Brian introduced a mechanism to back off those retries, and now the system behaves much more elegantly in case of slowdowns or congestions. On a forward-looking side, the ONOS northbound dock is almost complete. It's not really fully complete because it still lacks there are like 2 sections that need to be completed. They have been certainly started, but they need to be completed. So it's really near the point where we can distribute it with wider audience. As sort of a subtopic of this is a virtual design document was sent out for review as a follow-on to the design review session that we had 3 weeks back in TSP. And I think this work will hopefully tie into some of the community-related efforts that will be announced later.
So,
on web UI side, Simon, do you want to provide an update there?
Can you hold on a second? We got a question here.
Yeah, there was a question about the previous slide.
Yes.
yeah, what was number 2 on this, the ONOS northbound dock again?
It's basically a state of the ONOS northbound, which it's basically a paper that sort of steps back and provides sort of a background for why ONOS northbound is structured the way it is, and sort of describes some of it, the state of some of the both sort of topology or observability-based UIs, APIs versus some of the control and configuration APIs. And this incorporates both closer look at intents and some of the limitations of today's intent subsystem, and includes also design or reference to the design and discussion of the virtual network subsystem, more forward-looking.
Great.
So I thought you were on a list of people whom it was at least distributed as a sort of initial round of reviews.
I could have been. I will look at it. Thanks. But
yeah.
I guess I didn't notice it on the wiki, but I will see if I see this.
And yeah, the idea behind this document is to make sure that everybody in the community is sort of on the same page about some of the motivations and understanding where things are today and where we envision them to go, and provides basically provides a mechanism for community to come together on these things and participate in the direction of together.
Yeah, that's great. If you send it to ONOS doc, I will review ONOS doc, and if you haven't, maybe send it out because the docs mailing list would love to see it if they haven't already.
Yeah, and it's the purpose of this is really not as a long-term, long-lived type document. It's mostly just as a sort of a calibration type thing. So, there will be not everything will be perfect in there. Then not necessarily everything will be elaborated in full details. I mean, as it is, it stands, I think, at somewhere around 20 pages. So, we try to find a balance between providing the right level of detail and explanations of some of the motivations. But clearly, we couldn't afford to auger in onto some of the sections as much as it will be required to do so eventually.
Great.
Okay?
Yeah, this is a great development actually.
Good. I'm glad you think so. All right. Any other questions on this section? Not, then I think we can pass the ball over to Simon.
Yeah, so region-aware topology view is where we are allowing an administrator to configure a hierarchy of regions to make displaying large networks more palatable. So we're basically breaking this into two pieces. There's the server side and the client side. We're doing a lot more computation on the server side in terms of modeling what should be shown on the canvas in the UI. Most of that design work has been completed, and the actual implementation is nearing completion. And then on the client side, we're essentially rewriting the client topology code from scratch using the new modeling. So that's begun, and we are basically in the process of migrating the functionality into the new topology view. So just as a note, for the next release or two, both the classic topology view and the new topology view under construction will coexist in the code base. Only the classic will be kind of immediately available, but the other one is available if you were to uncomment and recompile. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
All right. Thank you, Simon. John or you, do you guys want to talk about the QA?
Yeah. So there's a couple enhancements that we made to some of the functionality tests. We added a check for flow duration and flow rules to catch some potential bugs that we had where flows kept getting rewritten. We added a test case to test VLAN encapsulation, and we will probably also add MPLS in the coming sprint or two. And then pending functionality merged into ONOS, we have a test to test single point and multi-point through REST API. Some of the things I was working on is some simplified HA tests for ONOS.py, so developers can easily test some of these HA scenarios on their laptops. That's still in progress, but I have a good prototype. And then I had a time-boxed investigation of some Jepson tests, and I didn't quite get any working for ONOS, but I'll probably continue working on that in the background. And then we did a lot of debugging and refactoring of some of our performance scripts, so they run faster and also are more resilient in the case of ONOS failures. And we did some, investigated some of the controller benchmarking methodologies and tests that other groups have been doing, and seeing potentially where we can collaborate with them. So that's it for this slide. So some quick bug stats. There are 49 resolved in the sprint and 44 created. So progress. And a total of 155 open bugs right now. Here's some couple of high priority bugs. Some of them have already been fixed from last time, or partially fixed. There's still some, I guess, edge cases for atomics during partition and failure situations that we need to investigate. And there's still a flow throughput regression since 1.5 that we haven't fixed yet. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Mhm.
Ray, did you want to cover this?
Sure. Let's make the phone stop first. Okay. So we did some more work on implementing stuff in Buck that we didn't have that was supported by Maven. We have a per component Java doc. So this basically means that any package we ship as a separate jar file now has the ability to generate its Java docs using Buck. Thomas and Brian put in a plugin implementation into the Buck source itself. This is a kind of laying the groundwork to doing a lot of these things that we're currently doing in Python scripts with sort of limited visibility to the context they're running in, trying to move as much of that into Buck as possible, because then you have full visibility to the rules and dependencies, which you don't always have in the Python. And then on top of that, Thomas and Brian implemented a Swagger plugin, so we can now generate the REST API docs directly out of Buck.
Great. Thank you. I think just on a side note, I think one of the major, I think one of the only major remaining items for the Buck-based release is the ability to be able to publish the artifacts to Sonatype, so that they can be uploaded eventually to Maven Central. That's something that we'll have to tackle in the next couple of weeks. All right. Since with Luca being on vacation, we didn't get any updates on deployments. We're going to skip that. And I wasn't entirely sure if anybody had anything to demonstrate, so I didn't sign up anybody for anything. Sounds like nobody signed themselves up either. So if nobody steps up to the plate for demos, then I think we can call this sprint done. And next Monday we have an on-site, off-site meeting, all-day meeting, basically. Just like look at some of the priorities for the near-term future. And the sprint review is on, sprint planning is on Tuesday, correct, Bill?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll see everybody on Tuesday. I actually won't be there on Tuesday because I'm taking a couple of days off middle of next week, but I'll be there on Monday and then Thursday afternoon and Friday. So everybody have a great weekend. It was a good sprint. Let's have another one like that next time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Thomas.
All right, bye.
Thanks.
Yep, bye.